This is the next chapter for the fourth test. Your fourth test isn't until 3 weeks, okay? And it'll cover 3 chapters. Let me ask you if you want me to do this. I'll either do this on Thursday or next Tuesday. I want to do 2 things in this chapter. One, I want to give you the theories of how anxiety and stress is debilitating in our lives. But then the second thing I want to do is show you how to manage stress. So I'm going to tell you, talk with you about it, but I would also like to do a progressive mental relaxation with you. And a progressive mental relaxation would be me dimming the lights, you putting down your pencils and paper, and let me lead you through a progressive relaxation where you relax each and every parts of your body. Then I'll have you visualize and stuff and show you how you can induce the parasympathetic. Would you like to do that? Yes. Okay, and I'll put that in. If you don't want to do it, then just sit here. Okay, otherwise it's a great opportunity to be part of the class and actually close your eyes. Okay? And you can go to sleep and that'll be part of the class. That's there. But let me show you how to do it. All right, I'll put that in. Stress. We live in a stressful world. Sorry, we do. You live in a major city. The research says when you group people together and population density gets higher, stress levels go up. Bless you. Bless you. Okay. We've got a very rambunctious class today. All right. You're kind of talking and everything. All right. We live in a stressful world. Yeah, we do. Okay? We need to learn to what? Relax and to be happy. Because if we don't do that, we're going to wind up, okay, having a very debilitating lifestyles. We did that already, so don't do that again. Okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part. The first part of your chapter is more about major health-promoting behaviors. And they take each one of these and they go into a little bit more depth that's there. They put this in the chapter because the majority of the people who are in college are in their 20s. And what we find is that most people who are in their 20s, okay, are invincible. Nothing will ever happen to you. Okay? You can live on the edge, have health-fearful events in your life, if that's such a word, okay? And what winds up happening is that you probably won't get sick. You can drive 90 miles an hour drunk, and then most of you will be fine, okay? But what winds up happening is that if you don't learn health-promoting behaviors in your 20s, it becomes what? A habit, and then it gets worse as the years go on. So we put this in here to say, hey, take a look at your lives. What do you eat in terms of nutrition? Do you eat a balanced, low-fat diet, appropriate caloric intake? Do you do that or don't you do that? Well, maybe it's about time that you start that. Okay? Do you exercise at least 30 minutes of aerobic exercise 5 times a week? Okay? My guess, very few of you do that. All right? So what happens? You may be really fit and you're athletic in your high school years, but that goes away pretty quickly. Okay? And we know that even in your 70s and 80s, this is very important, not only for increasing your life and your longevity, but for mental acuity. Okay? Getting that blood and oxygen up to your brain. Blood pressure, alcohol and drugs, moderation that's there. I always think no more than 2 drinks per day. Well, I don't drink too much. I'd probably be drunk every day if I had 2 drinks. I don't drink very much. Okay? But they're just saying in moderation that's there. By the way, that doesn't mean, I didn't have my 2 drinks the last 4 days, so I can have 8 today, right? To get my weekly limit. Don't use any tobacco. Sleep, a lot of you don't get much sleep, right? Okay? I look around the little tired eyes that I see out there. Try to avoid sleep deprivation. Easier said than done. Practice safe sex. That's not easier said than done. You should be doing that, period. Injury, cut dangerous habits. And then the last one we're going to talk about is stress, and much in depth. So you want to think about this, become aware about this, because it doesn't make a lot of sense when you're in your 20s, because everything is fine. You have no health issues, everything is fine, and you're buzzing along. But sooner or later, it's going to start catching up with you. All right, so let's talk about stress. A man by the name of Hans Selye, S-E-L-Y-E, and I'll have his spelling on another slide a little later, So, okay. Don't do that. Don't do that. My computer is messing with me today. Selye, a man by the name of Selye, was the one who came up with this definition. And I don't know if I want to say this about the man. He's no longer alive, but he was always considered to be the father of stress. I don't know if I want to be known as the father of stress, right? But he did all of the original research on stress effects. Well, first rats, but then he went to humans as well. And he borrowed this term. He actually took the term from engineers, because the engineers had been talking about stress on a bridge, stress on a building that's there, and how when you have overwhelming stress on a bridge or a building, it may fall apart. Well, it's the same thing on our bodies as well. So his definition of stress is the body's non-specific. Now, let me stop there and explain that. What does it mean, non-specific? What Selye said in all of his research is, sure, all of us go through the autonomic nervous system reaction, fight or flight, right? Sympathetic reaction, that's there. We all do that. But the way it manifests itself in your bodies is different for different people. It's non-specific. So if I say to you, when you're under a lot of stress, how does your body react? So somebody answer that. How does your body personally react to stress? Yeah, but what I'm asking you, cortisoids and stress, I'm asking you, how does your body react to stress? Because Selye said, if you got 100 people in here, you may get 90 different answers. So when Selye said the first step of reducing stress in your life is being aware of how your body reacts to stress. Okay? So how does your body react to stress? You get tired. You're very tired. You get tired. You don't want to eat. Okay? A lot of people here would go, I wish I felt that way. Okay? You don't want to eat, but that's your body's reaction. Even sometimes food, you look at food, it's like, oh, I don't want to eat that. It upsets my stomach. Well, that's one, right? What happens to some people? They have gastrointestinal problems. Right? They don't want to eat. They eat too much. They get diarrhea, okay? Or they get constipated. Anxious, just uptight. Now look what I just did. Some people have what? Their backs of their necks get tight. That's why you see some people at the end of the day just going, oh, man. And they can actually pop their necks and stuff because they're so tight. There's actually something called the apex of stress, which starts, the top part of the triangle is up here in your neck, and then it goes across your shoulders. And a lot of us hold stress in our shoulders, so when our necks or shoulders get tight, that says we're under stress. Other people, they do this when they get uptight. Other people clench their thighs. A lot of people clench their buttocks, okay? It's kind of weird. Tight asses, we call them, okay? They clench that. Some people, all right, clench their teeth. Some of you have bruxism, okay, which is you grind your teeth when you sleep, okay? You're tense like this. A lot of you, think about this. When you wake up in the morning, I know when it's cold, we kind of get into a fetal position. But some of you do that every night, whether it's cold or not, because you're so tense and you curl up that way. I don't want to do this to myself. I make myself tense. Anything else that you can recognize? You what? No sleep. I bet you there are people here who get more sleep when they get stressed. Because it's what? The body's non-specific reaction that's there.
Can your reactions change over time?
Can you what?
Can your reactions change?
Yes. Yes. That's a good question. Can your reactions change over time? One, for the worse, and two, for the better. It's almost as if we're born with a certain number of stress points, and that, I have stress points, and I can ward off stress with all these points, and then as your life goes on, you're using up those points, and it starts catching up with you. I hate to say this one, but the older you get, the more stress influences you. One, you have more expectations, more responsibilities, and I think we used up our points. The second part of this is, do you know what a tachometer is in your car? Most cars have a tachometer. You don't even look at it, right? It's usually right next to your speedometer, right? It's usually right next to it. Most cars have this. What it is revolutions per minute. It's your engine turning. So if you, on that, it'll tell you what your revolutions are per minute. And then over on the right-hand side, there's a little part there. The color changes. There's a red line that's there, okay? When your car gets to the red line, it means your car is under a lot of stress. If you ever want to see that, now don't do it. Put it in your lowest gear and just slam down on the gas, okay, and you'll spin your wheels. But that car will go, whoa, way over to the red line that's there. Those of you who know how to drive a shift, some of you learned by ear, but some of you looked at your tack, and when the tack went up, you shifted again, brought it back, went back up, and you kept shifting that way. That's also like your body. If you're pushing your body to the red line, okay, over and over and over and over and over again, sooner or later it's going to break down. So it may not happen when you're 18 and 19 and 20, but when you're 26 it may happen if you keep pushing it to the red line. That's Cellier's work that says that keep pushing an organism under stress, sooner or later something's going to break down. If you're driving a car, you keep putting it under stress, what will break down? The weakest part of the car, whatever that may be. And different manufacturers have certain parts that are weaker on different cars. That's what will break down. Well, what about your body? What's going to break down? Well, it depends on your genetic predispositions, okay? Because stress is highly correlated with all kinds of illnesses. Pushing it to the limit, who knows? Whatever your family history is of various illnesses, that could happen to you. And that's Cellier's research that's there. So the first thing is the body's nonspecific response. We talked about that, trying to stay aware of your body's response, not somebody else's body. It's your body's response on any demand. Anytime there's a demand on it, let's do this. You have to, you got to, you should do this. Whether that demand is pleasant or not. Cellier's research says you will induce the sympathetic part of your nervous system, whether demands are pleasant or not. So if someone comes up to you, you know, that person of your dreams you've always wanted to go out with, and you're kind of like, God, I wish I could go out with them. I know you go out with those people because you're the greatest, right? But if you always wanted to go out with that person, someday they say, you know what? I've always wanted to go out with you. You're the person of my dreams. Oh, I'm the person of your dreams. It's like one of those romance novels, okay? You both, okay, and everything is wonderful and great. Your body is under stress during that time. Your hearts are beating. You're under a sympathetic reaction. You're under stress. Now, if you walked out to the parking lot at 10 o'clock at night and 6 huge people came up with machetes and basically said, your life is ours, okay, and came after you, I would say that was pretty stressful, wasn't it? Now, whether that demand is pleasant or not, I'd say that was not pleasant. Your body goes under the same physiological reaction, pleasant or not. One he calls distress, the machetes, okay? 2 he calls eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, which means good stress, or from the balance, it's really balanced stress that's there. I'd rather have the passionate kiss than being chased, right? So would you. But it's still stressful. It's still stressful. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a loving relationship and everything's wonderful and great, your body's going to crash, okay? But some stress is better than others. I've been stressed the majority of the time over the last year. Strongly agree, yeah, I've been stressed. Neutral, I don't know, nah, not really. Oh, no way, I'm really relaxed. Again, we want to build awareness. Because, and I think a second part of your question then would be, what happens a lot of, whoops, I didn't show you the answer to that, did I? How'd that happen? There it is. All right, so yeah, majority of you, 67% would agree with that. So that's 2/3 of you would agree that you have been stressed the majority of the time of last year. By the way, that's pretty common. That's pretty darn common. Look at your lives for a lot of you. You go to school, you work, some of you have families. Okay, and so that's pretty stressful. Others of you don't have so much stress. That's the 14%. It's not much, right? 14%. Second part of your question was, what seems to happen under stress is that a lot of times our body is just trying to help us survive, and it's trying to help us survive, and we don't even realize we're under a lot of stress. And sooner or later, then all of a sudden we say, gosh, I feel so stressed out. I've never felt stressed out before. No, you haven't. You're just becoming aware of it because your body's starting to say, I can't take it anymore. But you've actually been probably stressed for years. But your body's finally going, I can't take it anymore. And Cellier actually has a scale that I'll show you about that talks to that. All right. So when we talk about stress, there has to be something in your life that induces stress. So what do we call that? A stressor. A stressor. So the question is, what are the stressors in your life? What is a stressor? It's a condition or event that challenges or threatens a person. Now this is an odd statement. Challenges or threatens a person. When I first read this, I thought, well, no one's chasing me around with a machete. That would be the only reason why I'm challenged or threatened. But you know what? Stress is also so much insidious. You know what that word is? Insidious. It just kind of builds up on us, sneaks up on us a lot of times. And we don't realize just how driving, especially with LBJ being the way it is now. I mean, to me, it's just kind of like I got to hold on to my wheel because I never know what lane is going to be open, if they've moved my exits or didn't move my exits, and I feel myself driving like this all the time. So it's just those little things that are there. Test coming up. Didn't study for it. Yeah? Well, you better study for that test. That could be stressful. So sometimes it's the little things that build up, not something major like you got fired or something like that. It's the little stuff that could be stressors. Pressure is a stressful condition that occurs when a person must meet urgent external demands or expectations. You got to, you have to, you should, you better. Okay? If you walk around with those thoughts in your head, then what happens? That's pressure that's there, which increases your stress levels. So what are the main stressors in your life? I know I should put 5 should really be all of the above, right? I should probably change that. Now I'll do that next semester. But I'm just trying to get you to think about what's the main one in your life. Is it work? Is it home? Is it school? Is it relationships? Or something other than what's even up there? They're all. Well, they are, yeah. Now again, if you say all of them, wow, you're under a lot of stress. Because sometimes, you can go to school and school is stressful, work is stressful, but then I can go home and everything's better at home. But if you're saying you can't do that either, or you're, not you, I'm saying, or your relationships are that way, wow, you don't get a break anywhere. All right, so of course, this is your age group, right? This is exactly what's going on. It's me. I'm your stressor. Okay, school. This beady-eyed woman here, I can't tell if she's beady-eyed or her pupils are just super dilated or something. Must be on speed or something.
Her eyes are also slightly misaligned.
What are they?
And her eyes seem to be slightly misaligned.
Misaligned, yeah. It's just a weird face. What happens when you hit stress in your life? Well, first thing you do is you do a primary appraisal. What's going on? Is it relevant? Is it threatening? What's going on? And from there, if you say, hey, I can handle it, no big thing, then you don't do anything else. Your stress what? Kind of goes away. But if you say, yeah, this is kind of threatening, I am a little worried about this, I have to do this, I got to do this, I got to go to work because got the bills coming in. God, it's the end of the month, rent's coming up, will I be able to pay that? I'm not sure. That's all what? Primary appraisal. That's stress stuff. And then you go to secondary appraisal, which is what can I do to cope with the stress I'm having now? What are my resources? How do I handle this? What are my courses of action? We know that stressors, this woman got fired. Nowadays they say notice of workforce reduction, okay? or we're downsizing, same thing as being fired, okay? Stressors. The more intense the stressor, if it's repeated, if it's unpredictable, if it's uncontrollable, and if there's a lot of pressure, the greater the stress. Have all 5 of those, wow, that's a huge stressor then. So we figure this out. We get hit with stress. So you have to figure out what's your primary appraisal. What's the first thing you do when stress hits you? Well, take a look at this. Let's see what you do. I'm going to try to determine how you handle stress. You're getting a failing grade in one of your classes, and you feel very stressed about the grade. Most likely, what would you do? 1, see it as a learning experience. Everyone has to fail sometimes. 2, work harder, study more, and raise your grade. Your grades are in your control. Do extra credit, replacement paper. Talk to your friends about it. They always make you feel better. 4, ignore the bad grades and focus on your good grades. 5, wait for your professor to contact you to schedule an appointment. Or 6, bribe your professor with $10,000 in cash, please, not checks. I'm getting ready to retire one of these decades, so I probably need that money. What do you do?
Does it have to be 10,000?
What's that? I didn't hear what he said.
He said, does it have to be 10,000?
Does it have to be 10? I'm not cheap. Got to figure I'll get fired, so I better accumulate a lot of money before I do that. Right? I don't do dollars, right?
Is it for the course or just the test?
Oh, just the test. He's asking. This guy's interested back here. That's for the course. How about that? Just for you. It's a bargain today. We're doing 10,000 a course. All right, so did you all answer this? Hopefully you all answered the same. Yeah, good for you. 89% of you work harder, study more, and raise your grade. Your grades are in your control. That's called an internal locus of control. People who have an internal locus of control can manage stress better because they say, what can I do about it? My life is in my hands. People who have an external locus of control, okay, like 5, which I'm glad no one said, okay, that, oh, don't worry about it, somebody else will take care of me with this. External locuses of control have a lot of issues in life. They don't handle stuff well, okay? And they also have a tendency to say, it's not my fault. It's that stupid school I went to, okay? It's those other people. My boss told me I was late 5 times in 6 days. What's the big thing? What's his problem anyway? Okay, I don't have a problem with this. External locuses of control don't work. Okay, the 2% of you who said you'll give me 10,000, I'll see you at the class. Okay, but I'm glad most of you have an internal locus of control. Now, see it as a learning experience. Everyone has to fail sometimes. That's not a bad attitude. That's kind of let's kind of go on with it. Let's do it. But what are you going to do about it? Don't just say, everybody fails, no big thing, move along. That's a good attitude. Let stress kind of rolls off your back, but I'm in control of my life. What do I do next? Or number 4, ignore the bad grades, focus on your good grades. That's a positive outlook, right? Don't dwell on the negative. Focus on the positive. That's a good attitude, but it still has to be, what are you going to do about it in your life? Right? You can't let stress just overwhelm you and get in control of you. How else are people frustrated, stressed out? Well, when you get frustrated, you get stressed. Frustration increases as the urgency and the importance of the motive increases. What does that mean? The urgency and importance of the motive. All right, urgency. I got a test tomorrow and I haven't studied yet. Could be pretty frustrating tonight for those of you who care about your grades. Okay, got to put that in there. Who care about your grades? The urgency is coming in. Do people still get engaged? Not really. That's not a big thing anymore. Some of you are laughing because you say, I'm waiting for somebody to ask me. I've been going out with them for 3 years. They haven't asked me yet. Okay. I don't know. Let's just say people still do that, all right? Yes? You do. Okay, good for you. Okay? People still get engaged. Let's just assume people do. Well, when you get engaged, sometimes it's a year before you get married. Okay? So it's kind of like a year. What's a big thing that's a long way off? But as the time gets closer and closer and closer, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, what's going to happen? Your stress levels go up because the urgency starts becoming greater. That date gets closer and closer. And it's not unusual that couples decide to break up as they get closer to the wedding date. Why? Because the stress levels are greater. The urgency becomes greater. And then as your motive increases, okay, frustration increases. What are motives? I've got to get an A in this course. I have to, I must, I should, I better get an A. Okay? I have to. Did you hear that? I have to. If that motive is that's great, then you're putting what? More pressure on yourself, so therefore you may get frustrated when you get that 86. Okay? Hopefully you get frustrated when you get to 62 or 68 or 58. Okay, that's there. I hope, because frustration does work and you want to push yourself to get better. That's there. But that's frustration, right? As the motive is great. What are people's reactions to frustration? Some people get aggressive when they get frustrated. The classic example is road rage. Once a year, I read in the newspaper that someone in Dallas, okay, got angry enough, okay, that they pulled somebody off and they started shooting. Okay? People have guns in their cars, and somebody cuts somebody off and they grab their gun and they start shooting. Okay? Road rage. Have you ever just accidentally pulled in front of somebody and you went, oh, sorry, and they flashed various fingers back at you and raised at you and you were just going, oh, sorry, and then you got frustrated and you flashed back at them and then they were on your, that goes on and on and on, right? So when people get frustrated, sometimes they get aggressive. They lashed out. Do you remember that example I gave you of the little boy who hit a home run and busted his father's windshield and stuff? Well, what that father was doing is modeling aggressive behavior when he got frustrated. So some people, when they get so frustrated, they lash out, either physically or verbally, screaming and yelling at people. Two, sometimes, and I mentioned this once before, we have what's called displaced aggression. I get frustrated, okay? I gave you this example before. I get frustrated at my boss. I don't want to lose my job, so I just go, oh, okay. In my head, I'm going, you're such a jerk. Okay, but I don't want to show my frustration, so what do? I go home, okay, and I displace my aggression, my anger on someone close to me. So my wife says to me, and I told you the example before, how was your day? And I say, well, how was your day? You're always so nice all the time. Why are you always so nice? Nice. I'm sick and tired of you being nice. She's going, oh, what did I say? I don't care. Just leave me alone. Well, where did that come from? Well, we displace our aggression, our anger, usually on people who are closest to us. You do that. Okay. Take it out on those people. All right. Or we look for scapegoats. My life isn't going good. I'm frustrated and angry. It's those people. Those people are destroying our country. They're taking my job. Whatever it is, it's a scapegoating that goes on here. Blame somebody else for things you don't want to, that you're frustrated about. All right. People have conflicts, don't they? And when we have conflicts, they cause stress. We have what's called external conflicts. Those are conflicts you have, in relationships, with your employers, with your parents, with your spouses, with your loved ones, with your teachers. Those are external conflicts. What I'm talking about here is internal conflicts that you have within yourself that causes frustration, which then causes stress in your life. Internal conflicts that you have within yourself. One type of internal conflict is called approach. And if you were going to have an internal conflict, this is the type to have out of all of these. Approach means two positives. You approach one and go, oh, I really like this. And you approach the other one, oh, I really like this too. But it causes an internal conflict. You go into your favorite ice cream store and you're trying to decide one scoop of ice cream. And they have on a special this week, your two favorite ice creams, pistachio and vanilla Swiss almond. And there are your two favorites. Do you ever get behind these people in line? And they're going, oh, I don't know what I should have. What should I have? So this, and you're going, have both. Will you just order and move on? But they can't make up their mind. There are two people you want to go out with, and they both ask you out. Which one should I go out with? Well, how about you from 8 to 10 and you from 10 to 12? No. It's kind of like, what should I do? You just won the lottery. Should you get it in 25, one payment for 25 years, is it? Or all at once? Okay, all at once, by the way. Okay, but I don't know what I should do. 2 colleges have given me a scholarship. Okay, which one should I take? It's a conflict, isn't it? It's an approach. We should all have approach, right, for the rest of our lives. But it is an internal conflict. What do? Make up your mind, right, and move on. There are 2 positives. What happens to most of us, though, we don't have approach. We wind up with avoidance, 2 negatives. Or the proverbial, what do they say? I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Whatever that means. Okay? I'm stuck here. Avoidance, 2 negatives that are there. I hate my job. Okay? Just hate it. I hate it. But there are no other jobs available because I got to pay the rent and survive. Avoidance. Or the classic one, and this is kind of sad, is if you're in a burning building up on the 10th floor, what do? Do you jump or run down through the flames? Okay? Not good, right? You know what most people do in avoidance situations? Nothing. Okay? The person doesn't jump, they don't run, they die of smoke inhalation. Okay? Because they do nothing. Most people in a bad situation, in a bad job or bad relationship, okay, where they feel they're really stuck, they usually let time go by. They do nothing. Okay? It's so frustrating, so upsetting, I feel like I don't have a choice, I'm stuck. Avoidance. We'll talk about how to get out of that. Some of us have what's called approach avoidance. You have one solution to something, and it has a positive and negative to it. How about this one? Someone says, would you marry me? And you said, let me think about that. That's okay to say. You might want to say, I really do love you and I care about you, but you kind of sprung that on me. I really don't want to say yes, but let me just think about it. Ooh, that wasn't very romantic, was it? Or just say, oh yeah. Then in your own head go, I better think about it. By the way, I don't mean to be. I'm not negative about marriage. I'm really not. I've been married for a lot of years. But what happens to a lot of people a lot of times, they don't think about it, they just do it. So there are stages in a relationship, and if you get married in the first stage, which is the excitement stage, I love you, everything about you is so great, you make me so happy, things are good, male or female that way, you're in for a tough time. Because all relationships go through stages. And I'm not going to repeat what the stages are, but one of the stages is called reality, where you sit down and you people laugh. Oh, you're there. Is that why you're laughing? Okay. Where you look at the other person, you go, you know what? I like this, but I don't like this. That's there. And if you got married in the excitement phase, everything is great and wonderful, sooner or later you're going to hit the plus and minuses. And if you're married already, that's not good. I hope you go out with someone for a while, and then you get to the reality stage. And by the way, most healthy relationships don't say, I got to have 100% here, otherwise I'm gone. What you're saying is, the majority of stuff about you I really like and I think I can spend time with. But I don't like that. But you know what? I'm not going to say I'll change that. Don't do that. But at least said, that's not so bad, I'll learn to live with that. And I don't mean to be negative about that, but that's just life. That's there. I mean, I love my wife. She's a wonderful woman, but I like this, but there's some stuff that's kind of like, you still are a pain in the butt about that. But, what's the big thing after all these years? You hear what I'm saying? So, someone says, marry me. So what do? Approach? Yeah, but this is what I don't like. And sometimes what you don't like are some big indices that overweigh the positive stuff that's there. And some of you are going through that now. When I get to the chapter on human sexuality and we talk about relationships, I'll go over stages of relationship and we'll talk about making up your mind in terms of pluses and minuses and what's done about that, what marriages work, which ones don't. But that's approach avoidance, right? There's pluses and minuses. I want to go to UTD next. It's real close. It's only in Richardson, but I like this, but I don't like that. A lot of us get into these situations, though. Double approach avoidance, right? Two answers, two solutions, and there's positive and negatives to both. Positive and negatives to both. Should I go to UNT or UTD next? Could be a conflict, internal conflict, positive and negatives, positive and negatives. How about this one? You're married. Let's do a female. We'll do a female this time. Do a female. You married this guy. This guy is wealthy. Oh, is he wealthy? We're not just talking wealthy. We're talking wealthy. We're talking you getting $5,000 a month spending money. Anything you want. There you go. Okay, you have 2 kids by this person. Okay, but after 6 or 7 years, you begin to realize this guy is not only cheating on you, he's verbally abusive to you, okay? But you also signed a prenuptial before you got there, okay? And you're thinking to yourself, well, if I stay, what do I got? $5,000 a month, I got myself a Mercedes, got a beautiful house, my children go to private school, I have tutors, I got it made. The negative is I got to put up with him. Put up with him, lie to my children, put up to him. Or I can leave. The positive is I'm out of there. Great, woo! The stress would be reduced. Or my stress will be increased because I don't have money. Okay, I'll be living on my own. The guy happens to be a very prominent lawyer. Your prenuptial is really tight. He knows everybody in Dallas-Fort Worth. That's there. You're going to be stuck, okay, with you and your children, with nothing if you leave. Pluses and minuses, isn't it? You know what most people do? Nothing. Weeks, months, years go on and on. What do you do when these situations come up? Manage conflicts. Let's do the double approach avoidance. Don't make hasty decisions. Don't sit here and say, oh, Steve Ling said I need to leave. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Okay, no. Think about what the ramifications are, right? Don't make hasty decisions. You might also want to try out decisions. Visually, what would my life be like if I left him? What could my life be like if I stayed with him? Partially, now with this situation, either you leave or you don't leave. I guess you can try a trial separation that's there. That would be a partial way of doing that. But when you get stuck, you try to do it visually or partially. Partially would be, let me go up to UNT or UTD, if that was your double approach avoidance, and spend the day there. Just see what it's like. Let me go talk to the professors. Let me walk around campus and go on one of their tours. Then when you're on one of their little tours of campus, grab somebody on the tour and say, hey, you student here, what's it like here? And do a random sampling of people to see what it was like. See if you can visualize going to school there. What would it be like driving there every day or living there? Try it out. Check out alternatives. Is there a third school I can go to? What if I left him? Was there a third alternative towards this? And then you want to make a decision to learn from it. So here's one decision for that person who's in that marriage this way. I really want to leave. You know, it's better if I leave, but I don't have the money. But the guy is giving me $5,000 a month. I wish somebody gave me $1,000 a month just to throw around and spend, right? What am I going to do with this? I'm going to open up myself a bank account somewhere, or maybe in a friend's, if you can trust that friend, and take $4,000 out of that. I mean, he doesn't know how to spend it, right? Start putting it away. Gosh, in 10 months, I'll have $40,000. Think maybe I'll be a nice down payment on an apartment, on a nice apartment somewhere? So maybe what I'll do, I'll think about maybe I can hang in here. I've been in here for 6 or 7 years. Maybe I can hang in here for 2 years because I can see that there's some hope down the way down there. What I'm going to do is start putting away money, $40,000 a year for 4 years. That's $160,000 I can have saved up. But don't tell her, though, with community property, he probably can get access to that too, but that's okay. You hide it away or you cash it, put it $160,000 in cash, I guess get a safety deposit box and put it away somewhere. And then what you might want to do is come to Brookhaven College, okay? Get yourself an education, become a nurse, and then at least you have $60,000. After 2 years, you'll graduate, have a good job, make yourself $60,000, $70,000 a year, have $160,000 away, and then you go to him, okay? Keep your prenuptial, I'm gone, and my kids are okay. But what do I have to do? I got 2 years to hang in there and do this stuff. But at least I have hope, wow, that there's going to be hope I can eventually leave and get out of here. Okay? Don't tell me if that's you. Being able to choose, for 1 point, being able to choose between going to 2 good movies, both showing on the same night, is an example of what type of conflict? 2 good movies. Approach, avoidance, or just flat out ambivalence. Okay? Which one is an example of which type of conflict? Doesn't this happen though sometimes? Why don't you get together with your friends and you say, what movie should we go to? And we only go to this one. Oh, I know, better one is restaurants. Where do you want to go eat? And we got like 9 different choices and no one can choose. And just somebody make a decision. Just make a decision and move on, right? It gets so frustrating. What's the answer to this one? Everybody got this one? Sure, it's approach. 2 good movies, 2 positives. So the word approach means good, right? 2 positives, approach. Approach avoidance would mean there'd be a positive and a negative to that. And what I said, there was maybe 1 movie. Would you want to go to 1 movie? Some people like it, some people don't. That would be an example of approach avoidance. By the way, approach avoidance is another conflict, just in case some of you are getting to this. When you start reaching a goal, like graduating, and it's your last semester in school, some people, okay, are very self-destructive, and as they approach their goal, they begin to avoid the goal and start failing classes out of nowhere. It's a very unconscious thing, and what happens is they're too afraid to move on with their life. Okay, that means I got to do something else. Or as your marital date approaches, you're not sure if you really want to be married, okay, and you have an approach avoidance internal conflict, but as you approach it, you have more and more fights on an unconscious basis. You're picking fights because you don't know if you really want to get married. All right, let's talk about one way people handle stress. One way we handle stress is through what's called defense mechanisms. Now, I want you to, theoretically, it's easy for me to explain these, and you people will get it. The problem with defense mechanisms is getting you to realize that you use them because they are so unconsciously motivated. What is a defense mechanism? It's any mental process that you use to avoid, deny, or distort sources of threat or anxiety, especially when that event may threaten your own self-image. Who am I? You have a view of who you are, okay, and you want to maintain that, but when reality confronts you and says, maybe you're really not that person, there's a tendency we unconsciously use a defense mechanism to protect ourselves. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to admit that I'm not as great of a person as I thought I was. So I'll use a defense mechanism so I don't have to deal with reality. That's why I say I can explain this easily to you, but our defenses sometimes are so strong we refuse to recognize that we actually do this ourselves. A lot of us can see it in other people. Oh, you're being so defensive. But it's hard for us to see it in ourselves. And what this is a reaction to stress. And it becomes unconscious. If it's unconscious, we're not aware of what we're doing, right? That's why it's hard to stay aware of it. There are so many different defense mechanisms. I'm just going to go through a couple of the most popular ones. The ones we use a lot. Here's one that I always find people have a lot of difficulty admitting they do. It's called projection. Attributing one's own feelings or shortcomings or unacceptable impulses to others. You have that problem, I don't. That's your problem, I don't. So you are 640 pounds, and you're going to Luby's to lunch, okay? And you have one tray. And you double stack the food on your tray. And you're with this person. Okay? And you're looking at him double stacking and going, God, this guy eats a lot. And that guy turns and looks at somebody else who's 680 pounds, and they have 2 trays of food going through the line. And your friend goes, God, what a pig that guy is. Look at him. He's got two trays of food. And you look at his, which are double stack, and you think to yourself, who's calling who a pig? Okay? What you're doing is projecting your own feelings, okay, that you feel bad about your eating style, and you see it in other people. Uh-oh. Here's a second definition of this. What we see in other people that we dislike might be what we refuse to admit about ourselves. Ooh. Did you hear what I just said? Sometimes you go, God, she's such a spoiled, stuck-up woman, isn't she? I was going to use another word, but isn't she? Look at him. He's so conceited. I hate it when people are conceited. Sometimes when people have all that energy, you kind of go, wow, there's a lot of energy there. But you know what? Who's calling who? I think maybe you refuse to look at yourself, but you see it very easily in other people. Okay? That's a hard one to admit. Think about that. What you really dislike with other people could be what you refuse to admit about yourself. Projection. Projection.
I think they've scientifically proved that with people who have been very publicly homophobic. Because I know there was a study done a while ago, and I read it, and it's basically what they said.
Yeah, what they said.
Really like that.
Let me tell other people. But what he says is that sometimes people who are homophobic, people really, really hate gays, that there's a tendency that they're denying their own homosexual tendencies that are there. And there is some research to back that up. Displacement. Here's another one. Redirecting aggression to a target other than the actual source of one's frustration. Didn't I just give you that example before with displaced aggression? Get mad at somebody else rather than what you're really angry with. We did that already. This is a popular one, rationalization. Justifying your own behavior by giving reasonable and rational but false reasons for it. I can't handle what's going on in my life, so I'm basically going to lie to myself. I'm going to rationalize. You know, you were supposed to go down to Austin this weekend with a couple of friends. By the way, these were new friends, people you just met, okay? And they went, Jack, come to Austin with us. You're so much fun. We want you to come with us. Come on, come. We're going to have a great time. And you go, okay, what time are you going to pick me up? Oh, we'll pick you up about 3 on Friday. Okay, get your little bag packed. You're ready to go. 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. They didn't pick you up. They stood you up. So one of your older friends calls you and says, leaves a message for you and says, hey, I know you're driving to Austin. Sometimes the cell phone reception isn't very good. Just want to leave you a message. Just trying to tell you, I hope you have a good time. But when you come back in town, let's get together. I kind of miss you. Okay? So you get on the phone right away with them. and she says to you, or he says to you, well, I thought you were supposed to go to Austin this weekend, and you are so hurt and so upset that they stood you up. What do you say? You don't want to admit it. You say, oh, I decided not to go because they're people I don't like. Okay? You know, I really am not for those people. I don't think they're very good for me. I'm sorry that I've been kind of cold to you. Let's get together this weekend. I don't want to admit that I got stood up. I'm such a cool person. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rationalize it. I'm going to make up excuses because I don't want to face the truth. Lot to write on this one, huh? How about this one? This is an interesting one. Reaction formation. Preventing dangerous impulses from being expressed in behavior by exaggerating opposite behavior. So you don't feel, you try to ignore what you're feeling and you do the opposite of what you really feel. Thanksgiving is coming up. And some of you may be married, okay? And you don't like your in-laws. And you got to go see your in-laws. Okay? You know, the holidays are coming up. You got to go see them. Now, you really don't like them, but you don't want to say anything because it upsets your husband or whoever, and upsets them. What's the big thing? I can get through one day, can't I? But you know, you deny this. You force it down so much that you react in the opposite way. So you go over there and you say, oh, Mom, may I call you Mom? This is your mother-in-law. Mom, it's been such a long time since I've seen you here. I brought you some flowers. Okay, God, we should get together more often, shouldn't we? Great, it's good to see you. And you get one of those smiles, and she doesn't like you either. So she does reaction formation too. She says, oh, my favorite son-in-law. And you're thinking, I'm your only son-in-law. Okay, and you're over. I made your favorite food for you. Okay, you hate stuffing, okay, but she makes stuffing. You rather prefer dressing. She makes stuffing because she knows you hate stuffing. And so she's doing the same thing to you. Hopefully that never happens to you, right? But sometimes people do the opposite of what they really feel. The way I'm explaining this, it kind of sounds like I know what I'm doing and I do it on purpose. But for most people, they hide their displeasure about other people or other events, even from themselves. And they wind up doing the opposite. Kind of like the homophobic reaction, too. Denial is probably one of the most popular ones. I'd probably say this is the most popular one. And that is protecting oneself from an unpleasant reality by refusing to perceive it. I don't have a drug problem. I don't have an alcohol problem. No problem whatsoever for me. You're just jealous. That's what it is. You got a problem. I don't have a problem with this. Absolute denial of what's going on. A lot of us do that. By the way, sometimes, Freud, Sigmund Freud was the one who wrote most about defense mechanisms. And one of the things he said was, defense mechanisms are actually healthy to use for short periods of time to get you through a stressful event. And then you got to deal with reality. I'll give you one personal one. My dad died many years ago, decades ago. Okay, it was during the end of the spring semester. It was like the last week of school. My wonderful mother, he died in the middle of the night. My mother wasn't going to call me right away. She didn't want to wake me up. So she called me early in the morning, knew I was awake, called me. My dad had been ill. And said, you know, your dad died last night. We're going to have the funeral, certain dates. So right away, it was kind of like, God, I got finals coming up. I got clients. I got workshops I need to do. What do I need to do? I need to kick into gear. I need to call the school, make sure that somebody covers my classes, get my finals over to the testing center, call my clients, cancel that, make sure somebody else do the workshop. I was in full gear. Boom, fly up. I'm from New York, so I fly up to New York, okay? And my culture has one of these, they have wakes like for 3 days. Okay, that you're there. You know, my dad is kind of laid out, open coffin back here. And I haven't seen these people for, some of them, decades. And they come by and go, oh, Steve, glad your dad was so proud of you. He loved you so much. I'm like, hey, oh, that's really great. Okay. And move along. Okay. And 3 days is done. And you go to the funeral. Boom. Get back in the plane. Fly back home. Okay. Get back to home. Finish my finals. Get back to clients. You know, all that time it was kind of like, denial that it actually happened. Rationalization of, well, it was for the best. He was ill for a long time, which was true, okay, in that way. But I was never really dealing with my feelings. By the way, here's the kicker to this. I was getting married a week after my dad died, so it was kind of like, come on, get married. My mother and my family came down. That was a week after my dad died, so there was really no time to what? Really grieve, okay? So we did that. And then I found myself, after a while, about 2 or 3 months later, we were watching a movie with my wife, okay? We were watching a movie, and it was one of these movies where there was an issue with the dad and the son that was there. And in the middle of the movie, I just got I just started crying. It was like my wife was going, God, I've never seen you cry. What's the deal? I went, my dad died. And she said, well, it's about time, that you said that. I said, I know. But I was in absolute denial. I was rationalizing. And Freud said, I had to do that, though. Right? I had to go up there. You had to handle all this stuff. But the longer you deny it and keep the defensive mechanisms up, the worse it gets for you. So I'm glad the movie came up. I was able to get a lot of that out and enter the grieving process that's there. But what happens is, you got to, for short periods, it's good. Sooner or later, you need to own up to it. Fantasy. Fulfilling unmet desires and imagined achievement of activities. God, if I just won the lottery. If I win the lottery tomorrow, maybe Powerball I can win. I don't even know what the $20 million maybe. If I meant, then I wouldn't have to study tonight for that test. I can quit my job. I can say no to that idiot I'm going out with. And what winds up happening, you don't study all night long because you sit and fantasize about what are you going to do if you're going to make the money. You're not dealing with reality because you'd rather get into your fantasy. And the last one, and Freud says this actually is a very positive defense mechanism. It's called sublimation, where you're working off of unmet desires or unaccepted impulses and actions that are constructive. Now, what Freud talked about was sublimation was a type of defense mechanism, okay, in what are you pointing at, by the way?
Desires.
What are you talking about?
Well, it sounds amazing. Desires.
Oh, so you're saying I made a mistake about this stuff?
Saying I wrote the slide.
Okay, all right. Oh, by the way, I just misspelled it on it because I wanted to see if somebody figured that out, which you did, right? God, you're so wonderful. So I used which defense mechanism there? Was I using denial, displacement, rationalization, or all of the above? Some of you that just went right over your heads. All that just happened. You weren't paying attention. I think I was using all of them. I'll give you the answer. All right, what did I say? I said, what do you mean? I made a mistake? I don't make mistakes. Denial, okay? Oh, you. I should have said, I didn't want to do this. You, Miss Prissy, sitting there, you think you have all the answers, don't you? That would be displacement, right? And she could handle that. Or rationalization, which would be, well, I just wanted to see if you people would catch those spelling mistakes, because I really didn't make a mistake. Right? All of the above? Okay, all of the above. That's what I did. Let's go back to that one. Oh, wait a minute. There, okay? What is sublimation? Working off unmet desires or unacceptable impulses and activities that are constructive. I just took it. Thank you for being my person. So what does this mean? Well, you just got a divorce, and you're angry, and you're frustrated, and you're upset, and you got, well, look at me, you got all this energy of hurt and pain and sadness and anger. So instead of displacing it onto somebody else, rationalizing it, projecting it, what do? You say, you know what? I'm going to make a better life for myself. I'll show him. I'll show her. I'm going to start working out. Then when you start working out, you're going to like, yeah, see that? Where's a punching bag? Yeah, it's your face on a punching bag. And what I'm doing, I'm getting rid of all that anger, that sadness, that hurt. Or maybe I'm going to write a short story on what it's like going through a divorce. Or maybe I'm going to do a semi-autobiographical book on an individual who's going through a loss. By the way, a lot of supposed fiction is really people who've experienced those events who then write about it. And it's a form of sublimation. You take all that energy and you're not dealing with it consciously, but you are releasing it in a positive way. Okay? Last question. Think about your own life. The defense mechanism I use the most is which one? Now, I didn't put 8 on there, all of the above, because I hope you don't do all of the above. But we all use some defense mechanism. Don't sit there and say, I don't use any of these. Yes, we all use some type of defense mechanism. And it's important for you to deal with reality and at least admit to yourself, okay, that you use one of these. All right, so the most popular one for this class is rationalization. Sure, a lot of us do that. 2, displacement, and the next one was 5, denial. Those are the most popular ones. And since I'm a very empathetic person, I know what you're feeling. You people are leaving, so I get the impression. I can feel that. Let me find the next attempt.